Hey guys, welcome back to Let's Play Diablo 3. And last time we went over a lot of the basic stats that you require once you hit level 60 in order to have a successful character. And I realized I missed one, that being armor. Now armor, I would recommend at level 60 once you've geared up that you have at least 3,000. There are a lot of builds that require more. There's a specific one I'm thinking about using... what is that? I don't know. There's it's a witch doctor skill that a rune for the fire bat skill that involves it whirling around you. I can't remember. Is it plague of bats? I can't remember. Anyway, it requires. There's a specific build I'm thinking about that requires around 4,000 armor, ideally, and it's not always necessary. It's just highly recommended. Of course, the more armor you have, the better. You can get additional armor as an accessory in certain things. I don't have any in there. I got some in here. You can have armor in your different pieces of equipment. You can also have additional strength, which will of course add additional armor as well. In the barbarian's case, it also helps with strength, but enough about that. I went over a lot of the really important stats and other weird stat slash ability things. Critical hit chance, critical hit damage. The one I didn't mention other than attacks or armor was attack speed. Now I talked about it briefly before I changed characters, but depending on the skills you're using, you want more attack speed. Now with a barbarian it's a little different, and I'm not going to go into great amounts of detail because it would just take too long, but you want to have a good amount of attack speed, especially if you have a low amount of leech, in order to quickly recoup the losses you'll be taking when you're taking hits. In this case, I've got just shy of 3% on this sword, and I also have just shy of 3% on my belt. So that's basically all the leech I have. Let's scroll down. Yeah, see a total of 5.7%. But when you're doing, with my buffs over 200,000 damage, that's enough life regeneration to keep you alive most of the time. But you want to have more attack speed so you can hit more times so that you can gain more life faster. It also affects skills that you wouldn't expect it to hit. Now, let's take a look at sprint here. I'm just going to do a basic overview of this because I don't fully understand this skill either. The way it's listed is it's a skill that increases your movement speed by 40% for 3 seconds. With the rune Run Like the Wind, tornadoes appear behind you, and each one inflicts 60% weapon damage for 3 seconds. Now, apart from the fact that this is not very specific about, does it do 60 damage per second over 3 seconds or 60% damage over 3 seconds, so 20% per second kind of thing, it doesn't explain it. The game really, really needs to explain this stuff way better, because people actually have to go out and do a lot of testing in order to figure out whether this works. Now, it's confusing to me too, so I don't really know how to explain it properly. But your attack speed will influence how often your tornadoes will hit. They hit for 60% per hit, and there's a system that has been explained. I would just Google it. That's how I learned about it. That's called a tick system. And based on your attack speed, you'll get a certain amount of ticks with Whirlwind and other skills as well. Now, it's not with Whirlwind, it's with Run Like the Wind, with the tornadoes. I just keep calling it Whirlwind because I also use Whirlwind with this build. Anyway, the way it works is the faster attack speed, the more hits you get. So at this point, I think I get, I don't know, it's somewhere like 15 to 20 ticks per second kind of thing with the amount of attack speed I have, I think. I don't really pay too much attention for it. All I know is more attack speed is better for this, and even though it says it only does 60% damage, I'll do more damage using those than I will with Whirlwind, even though I do 145% damage with Whirlwind. That makes no sense, and the game does a horrible job of trying to introduce these hidden, attributes and hidden ways that skills work. Now, this is one of the issues I've had with Final Fantasy 2 in the past, and a lot of the old Final Fantasy games, Final Fantasy 4 as well. They don't list certain attributes that weapons and, shields and armor has. In Final Fantasy 4, they do a horrible job of listing on the item itself when you're equipping it what individual stat buffs and debuffs that particular piece of equipment has. And it was even worse in the previous games. And the fact that those games came out in the 80s and 90s and it is 2013 and they couldn't figure it out for this game pisses me off. Anyway, that's my rant about this. Basically, more attack speed with certain skills, and you'll have to look it up because I don't know them all, nor do I care to learn them all. Too much effort for my tastes. But more attack speed is often, very often, better than less attack speed. And there are certain skills where it doesn't matter at all, and there are many skills where it does matter. Now, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say about the different, attacks and all that. If you're going for an attack speed build like a barbarian, with the specific build that I have, which is a whirlwind and sprint tornado build, and everything else is just buffs. I recommend having at least the amount of attack speed that I have, preferably more. You could probably get by with 2.0 attacks per second. But you definitely want to get, like rings that have attack speed in them. And, that's the other thing about it. If you have a dual wielding character, such as a barbarian or a monk, I don't know if the Crusader in the expansion is dual wielding or not. Probably not. Just a Paladin ripoff, or a Paladin, sorry. I'm still stuck on my old pronunciations from before I realized how to pronounce things. Anyway. If you unequip this, my attack speed, well, first of all, let's do a normal attack. See how it changed? Basically, now it's set to use this weapon, which has lower attack speed than this weapon. So it'll change your attack speed when you have that. It also is influenced, so if we take this off, we lose attack speed. And of course, now we only have one weapon. In addition to that, I also gain critical hit damage from all the, more attack speed and more base attack speed because it's a sword versus an axe, which has less base, but whatever. Anyway, what I wanted to go over more than anything else is attack speed is good. All the other stats I've mentioned, critical hit chance, critical hit damage, attack speed, all resistances, and armor are your main stats that you want your equipment to raise once you hit level 60. You also obviously want your main stat as well as vitality. The more life you have, the better. I would recommend at least 25,000 life for any character at level 60. That you should easily be able to get that even on your way to level 60, as long as you get some semi-decent gear with sockets in them and put some gems in. My barbarian has quite a bit of HP because I've built him up quite a bit. I have other characters, such as I think my wizard has just shy of 30,000. Definitely want to get a good amount of life for each character. Now I'd like to go over what I would call essential universal equipment. Basically equipment that is great for every type of character, regardless of what type of attack they want to use, or what build they have, or what their main stat is. And let's start with the helmet here. The Mempo of Twilight. This one usually comes with a base stat such as strength, dexterity, or intelligence, all resistances from 70 to 80, attack speed 8 or 9%, and life percentage, which is just adds that basic amount to life. So if you have 30,000 life and you have, say, 15% life to 15% to life, or let's go 10% because my math sucks, then you would get 3,000 life, I believe it is. Anyway, yeah, this goes from 10% to 12%, and it also comes with a socket. You can get better ones, such as the one I have, which happens to have over 200. Normally, any base skill or base stat, such as strength, dexterity, intelligence, on any piece of equipment at least, main pieces, not including rings and amulets. Actually, just not rings, I think. They will be able to go up to 200 base, and then you'll need another modifier afterward. In this case, my helmet here had 200 base, or somewhere thereabouts, and then it had another multiplier adding more strength, and then another multiplier adding vitality. Vitality doesn't have to be on there either, but obviously it's definitely recommended. These can also have critical hit chance, which makes them insanely expensive and also insanely good. They have a lot of damage to add to your total if you happen to get one. I'm a cheap bugger, so I don't have one, and I haven't really played since I've had a lot of money. So, I got this money, the amount of money I have here, just kind of by going on Diablo once every couple days and throwing a few things that I had laying around my inventory on the auction house, and happened to get lucky a few times, sold some stuff, and then I had lots of money. When I stopped playing, I had under 100 million. When I started playing again, when I had nothing left to sell, I had just slightly over $1 billion gold. So if you collect some stuff just from playing the game, you'll get more than enough money to at least have fun with the game. You're not going to be one of those rich guys that, they bought, $200 billion or 200 billion gold worth with real money. I don't care to do that. I spent enough money on the game itself. Why would I want to buy something in the game? It's the same complaint I have with microtransactions in games and DLC to an extent. If you're just adding features with DLC that was already available in the game at launch, then I don't want to buy it because it's garbage. It's just wasting my money for something that I should have got when I bought the game. In the case where they're adding like a new story or a new dungeon with a whole bunch of new items or something like that, that's a little bit of a different story. But I'm still not a big fan of DLC. I like my games to come complete, and if you need to update them, it should be free. But I digress. So yeah, your Mempos can be quite good. Definitely a great one for any class. The attack speed really helps a lot of classes out, and that's what you'll notice about a lot of the pieces that are universal to any class. A lot of the time it's due to attack speed or critical hit chance. And speaking of so, we move on to Lacunae. Now Lacunae, you don't normally get up to 200 on your stats. Usually it comes with one stat that goes up to 100, and then it can have another stat, which can either be, any of the other main stats, vitality, or the same main stat as the first one. So I could have, say, 99 strength on the main stat, and then the bonus attribute might be strength again, so I might get 160 or something like that. It also comes with attack speed, either 8 or 9, 12% movement speed, another random attribute, which is, in this case, is melee attackers take damage, which isn't all that useful, and it can, though it doesn't always, have critical hit chance, and this goes up to 6%. Very good for any class. One, it adds faster walk run, and I've talked about that multiple times throughout this series. I definitely am a big fan of faster move speed. I think the basic move speed, it caps itself at 25% additional based on your gear. It shouldn't at all. It should be that 25% faster as your base movement speed, and then it should go up 25% on top of that. It's too slow for my tastes. I don't like running around, very slowly going from place to place. As far as boots go, there are two sets of boots that are quite good, and I'll show the other one when I leave the game here. Ice climbers are the more expensive of the two. They come with a main stat, usually up to 200, and same idea applies, there's extra stats on top of that base one that allow it to go over 200. This one happens to have vitality. They can also have, or they do also have, between 70 and 80 all resistances, 10 to 12% life. In this case, they have armor, which makes them cost a lot more than most of the other ones. They can also have gold fine, though not required. And they have I think it's between 5 and 10% reduced damage from cold. I'm not too sure. I don't really look at it. And they're one of the only boots in the game to have a socket. Normally, boots do not get sockets. But in this case, it's a legendary item, so they put it in there, and it really helps, allowing you to add additional strength to your build at a later point in the game. There's normally gloves don't have them either, but there is a legendary glove that does have a socket. Now on to the pants. Ina's is a set, and this set has pants which are pretty much the best pants in the game for every character, regardless of any type of build. There are very few reasons not to use these pants, in my opinion. There are other pants that have other features that are useful, such as depth diggers. They have gold find, magic find, and other, I think they can have sockets too, but, you know, these really are the ultimate pants. They have more movement speed, which, as you notice with my ice climbers, they don't have movement speed. They can get movement speed, but they don't have it by default. So I have, 12% here, 12% here, giving me a total of 24%, and 25 is max. So I don't bother with the extra 1%. I don't care that much. Again, they come with a base stat up to 100, and they can get a secondary stat, so you could get up to, in this case, they all have dexterity. I forgot about that. They all have up to 100 dexterity base, and then another stat on top of that. In this case, I chose strength. You could also get them to contain a double benefit of vitality. You can, strength, I think, only goes up to 100 on these. However, you can get up to 200 vitality, or at least 180. I've seen 180 anyway. That's another good choice, especially if you're low on HP. If you have very low health, I almost recommend buying ones with more vitality and not really any strength or something like that if you're using a barbarian. It comes with 2 sockets every time. It comes with 1% critical hit chance every time. It comes with 12 movement speed every time, and either 8 or 9% attack speed. Again, attack speed is very, very beneficial. As far as other things go, I think I need to check some other characters here. So the other boots that are useful, I don't think I actually have a pair, so let's take a look here. They're called Firewalkers, and it would be nice if I could spell. And let's just take a basic search here. Yeah, they come with a potential, a base stat, a potential secondary stat, fire resistance, armor some of the time, most of the time, and they also have movement speed. They also burn the ground as you walk, which gives you a very similar experience to what we used to have as a skill. I believe it was called Blaze in Diablo 2, where fire just erupts behind you. It doesn't do that much damage, but it is there. And you get reduction from melee attacks on most of them. I think on all of them, actually. Anyway, those are a great substitute if you don't have a lot of money, because as you can see, you can get them for as little as 15 grand. They're very, very cheap and very, very useful, especially if you don't have the money for, say, ice climbers, which are a lot more money. On to, let's not typo, thank you. On to shoulders. These are the quintessential shoulders for pretty much everyone. These shoulders are pretty much the best in the game. The only way you can get better, and of course they're great for all classes, is by crafting your own. And as you notice by the ones that I have equipped there, I crafted those, you can tell by the bind to account on pickup, especially on a rare item. Yeah, the shoulders, let's look at a different one. There we go. Yeah, they come with a base stat up to 200 and a random property, which is either, more of the base stat, vitality, or another main stat. They have between 70 and 80 all resistances. They have some armor. They have regenerate life per second. Excuse me. As well as melee attackers take damage. Yeah, and they can have other stats on there. Oh, they don't always have that. Okay, there we go. They don't always have the attackers take damage, though it's on a lot of them. I've very rarely, you see maybe 3 or 4 out of, 20 or 30 that don't have it, at least in my case. Okay, so those are great for that purpose. There is also Natalia's set. Now, which one? Not the Slayer, that's a piece of junk. Reflection, if I remember. Yes, this is the ring. Now, Natalia's set, the way sets work in this game is there are, I believe, 5 sets, basic level 60 sets that are pretty much designed for an individual class. As far as barbarians go, it's the Immortal King set. Every piece is really useful for, a barbarian. It's got strength, vitality, armor. In this case, it's got pickup radius, but pretty much everything is geared toward, including the set bonuses, as you can see at the bottom there. 2 pieces of the set, all resistances, 3 pieces, reduced damage from melee, 5 parts, and then we start getting into stuff that is barbarian specific. Maximum fury, fury generated, regain life on fury spent. That's designed for them. When you move over to a wizard, we have Talrasha's set. Talrasha's set is, as you can see, fire skills, lightning skills, and cold skills all deal more damage over set bonuses, as well as an increased arcane power regeneration, which, as you didn't get to see because I wasn't using a lot of arcane power in earlier areas, or in normal, but when you're moving on through Nightmare and Hell and Inferno, the skill that I was using, Shock Pulse, will lose some of its effectiveness as you get to some of the harder parts of the game before you can upgrade to better gear. At those times, I suggest using the Ray of Disintegration, which was the red-ish, laser skill that I was using from time to time in normal. It's definitely a very useful skill, and it does quite a bit of damage. It's a good step in between. As far as that goes, that will be helpful to a wizard. They also have the armor, which is actually useful for a number of other characters as well, because I think it's one of 2 armors in the game that has attack speed on it. And as I've told you, that can be very, very beneficial. This is a great armor to put on a witch doctor as well, because they all come with intelligence base and I think vitality as well. All resistance is a special one that you can get on there. It's rare and expensive. While I'm here, I'll go back to my search in a second here, but the Witching Hour. The Witching Hour comes with intelligence up to 100 by default, and it has between 8 and 9 attack speed by default. Strength and all resistances and level reduction are all just random stats that may or may not be on there. It also has critical hit damage. This is, based on damage, is pretty much the best belt in the game, as I've tried to hammer home by now. Attack speed, attack speed, attack speed, and critical. Critical is great as well. So there's that. That is probably the best belt in the game, if not the best belt, period. What else do we have here? Go back. I wanted to show off the other sets. As far as Demon Hunters go, Natalia's. Now, I have not done anything with my Demon Hunter since I got her to level 60. Or him, her, whatever. I can't remember. Doesn't say. Anyway, the good thing about the Natalia's set is it comes with the set bonuses. Now, most of the other set bonuses give you something that's decent on level 1, except for the Talrasha's set, which sucks all the way around for set bonuses. Here we get critical hit chance increased by 7%. That is huge for any class, which is why the ring is so good. Now, the basic ring comes with, I think, attack speed? Yeah, looks like attack speed. However, you can get them to be trifectas as well. So let's just select all 3 of these guys here. And as you can see, they're worth a lot of money. But think about pairing that, which, this one, particular one isn't as good as the rings I'm using, but think if I paired that with, say, the boots. Now let's take a look at the boots. The boots are the other ones that people tend to use with it. The footprints, there we go. And the reason is because they're not bad, You can get some strength on them, you can get some intelligence on them, you can get some vitality on them. They have all resistances, they can have armor, they have movement speed, which may or may not be required. And all around, putting those two on, you can get a good amount of damage increase by just having the 7%, even over, say, the better ice climbers. So that's definitely an option too, especially if you're going for, say, a critical mass build, which is a good skill or a good passive to use with, where am I going here? To use with the wizard. As far as witch doctors go, we have the Zunimasa set, which is actually a reasonably good one, but it's only really useful for a witch doctor. There's not a lot of pieces to this set that are good for other classes. The one exception probably being the boots, and that's just because the boots adds a percentage of poison damage, and that only applies to the black damage like we've talked about before. The minimum and maximum damage on this weapon and the 43% damage, it'll all add up onto that. However, if I had this one on, this one has fire damage. It would, and I think this colors the entire damage as fire, so it will void all of the normal black damage that's on there, and it won't really add all that much, if anything. At least that's what I've heard. Now, while we're here, we might as well go over this. This is a Scorn. Scorn is the quintessential cheap, two-handed, slow weapon that everyone can use that is very useful to have. It comes with a lot of damage. It usually comes with a main stat of about, I think it's 200 or more, 200 to 400 or something like that. And you can obviously pair that. It comes with critical hit damage that I think is anywhere from 150 to 200%. And it can, though it doesn't always, come with leech. Always, always, always get one with leech, no matter what character you're building, please. And it also comes with a socket, which is also very beneficial. So that's a really good choice because you can get them for next to nothing. As you can see, 35,000. This one's nowhere near as good as mine, but it is here. Another very useful weapon to use would be, oh god, what is the name of that weapon? Echoing Fury. I cannot remember the name of it for the life of me. These are also cheap as beans, 14,000. This one's not particularly good, but if you take a look at the attacks per second, it is fast. And they can get to be quite good when it comes to damage. Just scan through a few pages here. Yeah, take a look at that. That's a one-handed weapon. One-handed. The only downside to this weapon is all of them have a between 10 and 20% chance to fear an enemy on hit, which will cause them to run away, which is extremely annoying unless that works well with your build. With a barbarian using the whirlwind sprint build that I have, it's extremely annoying, and I stopped using it as soon as I had money to buy something better. But again, it's got black damage. You can add, percentage damage from, say, Zunimasa boots and a lot of other items to it. Very, very useful item. Now, and now finally we have the Ina set, which is built around the monk. And actually I have another Ina's belt on my Demon Hunter as well. This is a very useful one because, as you can see, it adds more black damage, which again only works if you have, or it adds holy damage, but it only works if you have black damage. It always has critical chance increased by 1%, so that's great. It usually has armor, though not always, and it'll always have dexterity because it's a monk piece. It is very, very good, especially if you pair it, especially on like a Demon Hunter or a monk, because if you pair it with one other piece of the set, you get additional dexterity as well as having additional, adding damage and adding critical chance, which is, even though it's only 1%, it does make a difference. Excuse me. Anyway, that's, oh, well, I guess I could show off Wind Force as well. Wind Force is the quintessential bow. You can get them quite cheap. They come with attack speed. They come with critical hit damage, which is useful. It has hatred regeneration, which is useful for demon hunters, which I'm not going to go into too much. They all have knockback, and I'm not sure if they all have leech. They might. Either way, always get weapons with leech if you can, because leech is definitely beneficial. Now, is there anything else I wanted to show off? I don't think so. That's a Zunimasa ring, that's a Unity ring, which is not particularly good. There are other sets that aren't those big 5 level 60 sets, and that's, like this set here has 2 rings to it, and that's it. These aren't particularly good rings. I just happened to buy them because I was bored and I wanted to see what they could do with the summoning of skeletons with the set bonus. You have some monk fists here, which again, I think a buddy of mine gave me these. I haven't used my monk in months and months. But yeah, so there's definitely a lot of interesting things you can do, but your main pieces of gear are going to basically be the ones I've gone over in here. You're always going to want them. The other option as far as helmets go, now that I think about it, is Andariel's Visage, which comes with a basic stat, strength, dexterity, intelligence, comes with attack speed 8 or 9. It comes with critical hit chance of, I believe it's always 4.5. However, you take more fire damage. Now, this ranges anywhere from, I think, 5% to 25 or 30%, and can be really, really bad if you happen to get a meteor dropped on your head, which, regardless of how much you try and avoid it, will probably happen at some point in time, which is why I tend to stay away from using this helmet. If you are going to use it, find one with fire damage taken being as low as possible. There's also a 22% chance in this case to use Poison Nova when you are hit, which is a skill from Diablo 2, which you can't actually use in this game as of yet. And I think that one goes from 10 to 30 as well. Maybe higher, I don't know. I haven't really looked into it a lot lately. But anyway, I don't think there's much more I can go over right now. No, there's not a lot left I can talk about. Anyway, the video is getting long, so anyway, I wanted to show off all that junk. Next time, we actually get to go back into the action and we'll explore into the Key Wardens and Ubers. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time.